It may look like a harmless bagel toaster, but inside is a deadly donut. How do you know PlayStation is not a normal game system?
Hey everybody, welcome back to Game Esoterica, and I hope you are thirsty today because we've got a big 6-pack of Pepsi ready for you to drink. We're starting a brand new series calling it PlayStation 1 Paradise, where I'm going to go through some of my favorite PlayStation 1 games of all time in 3D and in 2D. And I got to kick it off with one of my deep cut hidden gem favorites being Pepsiman. If you didn't know, in the 90s, Pepsiman was huge in Japan. He was the mascot for the Japanese branch of PepsiCo, and basically in 1999 they made a game for him that basically plays like Crash Bandicoot except with Pepsi involved. To say this game is weird is an understatement. It is such a strange and unique experience, but when you actually get into what the game is doing, the graphical style and everything else, it is absolutely an amazingly fun game that is so unlike anything you've ever played before. And if you haven't noticed already, I'm playing this in a manner completely different than a real PlayStation 1. I have scaled this to 16:9 internally, and I have upscaled it as well resolution-wise, so we get the best look at what Pepsiman could possibly be. But as Pepsiman runs through this family's house and trips over their dining room table, this is basically an infinite runner game. It feels like some of the stages from Crash Bandicoot where you were running away from objects that were chasing you down, except in the universe of Pepsi. And to say this game gets weird is not giving it justice, because very shortly it's going to get even weirder. But honestly, this is one of the games I think about when I think of the PlayStation 1. For every single Metal Gear Solid or something like that, there was a Pepsiman, an experimental, strange game that basically became a cult classic over time. You'll see Pepsiman slide under the Pepsi truck, and he gets to the soda machine to restock it before the citizens of this town go on riot because there is not enough Pepsi. The story is hilarious, and there's actually a lot of story in the game, and of course in just a little bit I'm going to give you a sample of that story and the acting, because it's actually some of the better acting ever to appear on PlayStation 1 in my opinion. But what's so much fun about this game is just how easy it is to pick up and play, but how hard it is to truly master. In later levels, you need to be perfect on the inputs, moving left and right, jumping, sliding, and you get so many different diverse stages, like going downhill in San Francisco on a skateboard as Pepsiman. Basically feels like you're just playing Sonic Adventure in an alternate universe in the best ways possible. I just love fun games with a sense of humor that try to do something different than you're used to seeing, and that is why I love Pepsiman so much. It was a budget title released in 1999 just to kind of play around with a game and to have some more press for Pepsiman, and honestly Pepsiman has lasted a lot longer than this game did and is still relatively common in popular culture in some spots. But tell me down below if you've ever heard of this game before, if this is the first time you're hearing about it on the channel, because I always love to know if you guys have played these games or not. And as you see here, we get to the end. Pepsiman uses his hand to refill the Pepsi machines. Apparently he can just manifest cans of Pepsi on his own, and then he gets run over by his own company, dislodges a gigantic Pepsi can, and we basically have an Indiana Jones Boulder scene in the world of Pepsi. The first time I saw this, I thought it was absolutely hilarious, but what you don't realize is how incredibly difficult it is as well. There is so much memorization and fast twitch button input in this game. It's as difficult as a bullet hell shmup in spots, and that's what I really love about it. But as this game goes further on, it just gets crazy. We're now in a post-apocalyptic Pepsi world. That's not true really, it just sounds good on paper, but Pepsi is everywhere. The entire city is burning down, Pepsi trucks are crashing, infrastructure is crumbling, and Pepsiman is here to solve the entire problem. This game never makes any sense, but it's that absurdity that makes it so charming, unique, and fun. And you marry to that this really fun fast twitch gameplay style that kind of feels like a music rhythm game without music, and you have a recipe for, in my opinion, one of the most fun hidden gems on the PlayStation 1. And it's the type of thing, it's so easy to just start playing it, but once you get into later levels, learning all the layout, memorizing things, getting better, and honestly speedrunning a game like this is a really good experience. As we have this trash can on, what it does is changes the left and right inputs. It inverts them, so you really have to think on your feet to be able to navigate around all this. But the best part about this game are the cutscenes in between levels. They did hire a professional actor to do the story, and honestly it actually works really well. Go ahead and listen for 45 seconds, and I'll be back with way more Pepsiman. I mean, in my opinion, the Pepsiman theme for this game is one of the most iconic pieces of music on the PlayStation 1, but I'm going to give you a little bit more sample of that and some of the acting later in the video because it is really good, maybe some of the best voice acting and acting in a PlayStation 1 game. It's not a console known for its good voice acting, but somehow this budget development game actually did better than most. As we get into a further level here, I love how this game continually adds mechanics. It builds on everything it shows you in the first world and then starts giving you more things to do. It's like a very rudimentary progress system, except as opposed to actually leveling up, you're just leveling up your memory and better understanding of how the world works, and they start throwing components on top of that. So the further you get into the game, the more you're actually going to have to pay attention to at once. It just starts with the jumping and sliding, but there's going to be so many more things that you need to deal with, and at the same time you need to deal with all of the different environmental hazards, which are going to get a lot more intense. You'll see there I made a late jump and I just basically missed that girder ever so slightly, and that's the thing. If you make a mistake in Pepsiman, it's because your timing was off. This game is incredibly fair. You live or die by your own talent, and even playing this in 16:9 with the internal upscale resolution to make it look more modern, there is no latency that's affecting my performance. If you see me make a mistake, it's because I made that mistake, and that's the great part about something like this. Maybe you don't have a PlayStation 1 and want to go back to that original look. You can play Pepsiman today and make it look like a relatively quote-unquote modern game, as the actual mechanics of this kind of feel like they were basically predicting what cell phone games would be in the future. If they released this on the iOS store or the Android App Store right now, it would probably be a hit because I see so many of these type of games on those stores already. And Pepsiman basically brought that to us, at least in the Pepsi universe. And fun fact, I have a cat in the other room named Pepsiman. That's how much I love this game. All jokes aside, when I was capturing this, my wife called me from work and told me she had found a stray kitten outside. She had it in a box and she had to have me pick it up. I brought it to the vet, it was healthy, and I decided that I would call it Pepsiman because I had to stop playing this game to go pick that kitten up. Just felt appropriate and a pretty funny name for a cat. But all cat stories aside, Pepsiman is just an absolute blast. As we get into further levels, it does get more difficult, but this is the type of game, if you have a game night, you invite friends over, you throw Pepsiman on, I can guarantee you most people have probably never heard of it before, but the minute you put a controller in their hand, they're going to get hooked because this game really does get its hooks into you. The first level lulls you in with a false sense of security, but then each level gets progressively harder, never unfairly so, but if you take a death you think to yourself, I could have been better if I had just done X, then you play the level one more time, and before you realize it, like 2 hours have gone by and you're just trying to work your way through Pepsiman, and if you trade controllers back and forth trying to get through a level, it becomes an absolute blast. But I did tell you earlier that there's some great acting in this game as well as some voice acting, so go ahead and listen for like 35 seconds this time and I'll come back and tell you more about the Pepsi history.
Hey, let's start the game!
Ah, Pepsiman, you got here just at the perfect time. I got a call that a vending machine ahead ran out of Pepsi, and I was just on my way there when I got a flat tire. There are a bunch of people gathered in front of the vending machine. They want Pepsi, and the word is that they're just about to riot.
I mean, the acting and the voice acting is 100% played as over-the-top, campy B-movie fun, but it 100% works for a game in which you're running around as Pepsiman, trying to save the world from a Pepsi drought. And I love that those buffalo just basically knocked him out of the way, and now this entire rolling log structure just starts coming at Pepsiman. Obviously, it probably used the same animations as the Pepsi can, but we just run down this canyon right now trying to avoid these logs. Nothing you see in Pepsiman is going to make any sense, but that's to be expected. It is a game based on Pepsi, don't forget. But it's not abnormal to have a game based on a soda. Don't forget Cool Spot on the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. Video games involving soda were definitely a thing, and I hope that that genre does come back. I don't know what soda mascots are left, but I would love to play a game like this on a modern console. So if anyone's listening out there, you're a game developer, do a modern remake of Pepsiman. I will buy 2 copies to help you guys out. But I will say, once you get into the final level of this game, you better be perfect, because even a single mistake is 100% going to ruin your run. If you hit any one of these signs or boxes here and you get stuck on this conveyor belt moving backwards, you're just going to take a death, you're going to fall into a pit. Seeing the end of Pepsiman is quite difficult, but I love the absolute challenge of it. It's a weird game, it's a quirky game, it's got a great soundtrack and a really good sense of humor, but it's also a really challenging game that if you want to see the credits roll, you have to be really good at playing video games. And I absolutely love the final quote-unquote boss is a gigantic Pepsi can releasing her Pepsi can babies out into the world. At least that's how I see it. These are parasitic Pepsi cans trying to take over Pepsi Man. But if somehow you've never played or heard of this game before, please do me the huge favor. Make sure you check it out. Short of that, I'm going to have 11 more episodes of this series. You're going to be seeing a lot more PlayStation 1 on Tuesdays, but I had to start it with one of my favorite PlayStation 1 games of all time, and that is obviously Pepsi Man. Short of that, I'll see you guys next time. Go have a drink. Bye-bye.